In this video, I will tell you how would I buff and nerf every single character in the game as of patch 10.05 that we currently have on the live servers. This is all based on constructive feedback, and I hope you guys will also remember that those are suggestions. So let's go. This is a long video, so hop in. Today's episode is sponsored by Elgato. Go to elgato.com for the newest hardware for streamers, use the link from the description below and the code for 5% off. Since we go alphabetically, let's start with Astra. Astra is a great character overall, but I have few problems with it when it comes to the fluidity of how you play the game with this character. One of the biggest problems I have personally with her is when you put a star and you recall it, it's incredibly hard to understand when your star is coming back to use. As you can see here on the bottom of the screen, this star is being filled. But the shape of the star, because it has like this small like arrow-like dot on the top, it makes it very hard to understand how many seconds are left till it actually becomes available. As you can see right here, it just fills some small part of it, which is so hard to understand in the heat of battle. So I would propose few things to make it easier to understand when your star is coming back. Once when you recall the star, it would be amazing to just have a countdown on the star, like just in seconds, to tell you exactly how much seconds are left. Or when you recall the star, we change the colors. So right now when the star is empty, it's grayed out. When you recall it, the countdown should not be yellow, but the countdown should be, for example, red. So when the color is red, you know you don't have the star back yet. But when it swaps to yellow from red, you know the star is now ready. And that's very easy to understand with your peripheral vision, because you see the color change instead of just like a glow up animation once it gets like, you know, filled. It's much harder to understand when that happens, when instead you could have the color change. I would also change the shape of those to avoid this small tip of the star being on the top. Another thing that is a pet peeve for me is that I'm allowed to go into the astral plane even though I have nothing to put there. Like right now, I don't have a star to put, I don't have a ultimate to use, and yet I can press X and I can somehow still be in the astral plane. Now, even if I have all the stars recalled, so I cannot even put anything on the map, I can still go into the astral plane and just click nothing. I would like this to be not allowed. I would just like to not be allowed to go into the astral plane till at least I can use one utility in it. I know sometimes you want to go earlier into the astral plane to be ready for that star to come down so you can put it instantly, but the problem is when you combine it with the problem of the visibility of where your stars are coming back, you might go too early into the astral plane and wait for several seconds for no reason at all. So I would like that to be removed. One change that I would like to try out, but it might be too much, it might be too big of a buff, is the change of the gestures. This could affect players in ranked and at pro play even more than at ranked. But pay attention, when I'm activating the utility piece, can be whatever, my character puts away the gun and makes this gesture. Now, in that time, you're not able to shoot your gun because your character is defenseless. He's using the utility. I would like this to be changed the same way that Skye got her change, because when Skye does activate the flash, there's no gesture anymore. She had it in the past, but it was deleted. So I would like the same to happen to Astra, and maybe instead of just hiding the entire gun, maybe we just keep it in one hand and then the other hand is making the gesture, but you can still shoot with the other hand. That will make Astra much more reliable for herself. She would be much better at side holding as an anchor, because now she can actually play a little bit more like a sentinel and be ready to instantly fight. It could be too strong, but I would love it to be tried out in the game to see how it actually plays out. My breach suggestions might be a little bit weird, but hear me out. So, whenever you play ranked with some random Jetts, random Neons, it's always annoying to keep up with them because they are so much faster than you. Now, Breach has a limit on the distance of the flash. He cannot flash, for example, over here because he needs to get in range of 35 meters to be able to actually flash backside. And it's still very easy to dodge this flash because you have the audible sound coming that the flash is being thrown. It has the travel time, and then after that it explodes. So it's more like an intimidation tactic than an actual flash. But I would like this range to be increased to like 40, maybe 45 meters, so it's easier to manage playing with those mobility duelists. This is specifically more aimed for ranked players rather than pro play, because at pro play that's easier manageable, but it would be so much nicer if you could just have a bigger range so you can play with those duelists. I would also consider making the flash last longer. When someone gets flashed, the longer the flash travels, but that's, maybe that's too much. The most important change I would do to Breach is buffing his ultimate. Right now the ult costs 9 orbs, which is the most expensive an ult can cost in this game, and when you ult it and someone gets stunned and they still one-tap you in the head, it feels like a really bad moment for you as a Breach player. Like, you just sacrifice 9 orbs. Maybe you only have 1 ultimate per half if you play like a true support player, and that's the one you get. You get killed because there's so much counterplay to a normal stun. So I would like it to have a separate stun effect from the normal ones, because right now the ultimate from Breach is balanced with the normal utility in mind. Astra, Sky, Breach all have the same stun. So I would like the ultimate to have a differently named stun effect, like for example call it concuss, and whenever someone is concussed, now you have super wobbly aim, even bigger inaccuracy than on a normal stun, and now it's actually more effective and you don't have to touch the normal pieces of utility because it's a different effect. Alright, Brimstone. Now his identity is that he is dropping all of his util and just running it down, kinda like an execute. Now, the problem is, when you do an ultimate and you want to do smokes at the same time, you cannot do that because you have to separately go first into the smokes, then into the ultimate, and do them one by one. What I would like to have is that if I press the iPad, so which is the E, and I have the ultimate active as well, I would like to be able to press and change from smokes to ultimate in the same UI. So I will be able to, for example, do an entire execute on C and put the ultimate at the same time, and now I confirm and both smokes and the ultimate drop down at the same time. I think that would improve Brimstone's playability by a ton without making him broken. Second thing for Brimstone, I would like his Steam Beacon to actually be just cheaper. Just make it for 150, maybe 100 credits. We already don't have 2 of them, so just make it cheaper for it to be used more freely. Because right now you have 200, 250 and 200 for the smokes, which makes the kit pretty expensive. Lower it down a little bit. Alright, so this next one, don't take it too seriously, okay? This is more for fun. But what if the Brimstone Molly would have a right click and it would be a flamethrower at the same time? Now that would be cool, no? But yeah, okay, don't do it. All right, what to do about Chamber? And I'll be honest with you, I think Chamber, you don't do anything about it. I think he's fine as is. He's not too overpowered. He's still very playable, still very powerful, but he's one of the agents that if he is too good, he starts overshadowing everything else because he's just so hard to kill. He still covers some ground with the trap, has guns for free, and the Headhunter is so incredibly busted still. I feel like you don't want to push him again of a certain power level. So either you don't touch him at all, or you have to fully rework him. And to be honest, that will be probably a separate idea for a video. Clove as a character, they have this really weird spot in the metagame. The character is not good enough to be at the pro level, but they are too good for ranked play. So even with the changes that we got with the medal, so you're now have the possibility of making lineups for the pro play, they are still not good enough to be played at pro level because the auto controls are just so much better at everything they do. But also now still she's like, they are better for ranked than you would typically expect, because your heal lasts longer, the smokes are still there, the 10 seconds additional cooldown on the smokes really doesn't matter in rank that much as you think it matters, and the overall ultimate is just gets you a second chance, but it's bad because you rarely get any value out of it. So it's really hard to justify the existence of Clove in this current form, and they should be changed completely into a rework. Like, there should be a complete rework of this character. And to be fair, I don't really have a proposition, but I don't think she is good for the game, for the health of the game when it comes to the ranked, because she is just overshadowing every single other controller in the game, and it doesn't matter what's gonna be happening in the meta game, they are gonna be used most of the time in ranked anyway. So full rework, guys. Like, I don't think this works. So what about Cypher? I have few suggestions, so let's try it out. First and foremost, please, for the love of God, allow me to pick up the cages back mid-game, because there's so many situations when I play on site, I have a setup with a cage, with a trap, no one comes to my site, and now I can go and retake. I can pick up the trap, but I cannot pick up my cage. And cages are actually way more important for retaking than the actual traps. Now, to compensate for the buff that I suggested with the cages, we're gonna change the way that the utility is working when you recall it back. So, for example, here, the trap, if I pick it back up and now I want to reuse it, the trap rearm status takes way longer than this 1.5 second. I would like this to be extended for like 4, maybe 5 seconds before you can reuse it, or before it essentially rearms. So I would like to have a cooldown essentially on the functionality of that piece of utility. Same would apply to cage. If I pick it back up and I want to use it now, I probably would have to wait like 5-10 seconds for it to be possible to activate it again. So I cannot just spam it constantly all the time. And now let's talk about my biggest suggestion, which is the ultimate, or rather the ultimate change, because I would like it to have another option. So first and foremost, we make it more expensive to 8 orbs. Now, to compensate for that, it will have flexibility. You can still use your ultimate just with the left click, the way you use it right now. It goes to a body and it gives you the scans 2 times. Now, because it's more expensive, I would like it to regain 1 orb if you use the ultimate on a body. But now the right click would essentially, if you right click with the ultimate when it's active, you channel, kind of like, you know, being in a camera for 5 seconds, for example, or like 8 seconds, for example. And after that period of time, when you stay still and you ult, you expose the opponents exactly the same way like you did with the body itself. This would actually make Cypher an impactful info agent when his ultimate is active, and it actually would be important to get this ultimate off as soon as possible. It could actually affect default setups on attack, and it would be an incredible buff to him overall. Maybe a little bit too powerful, but who knows. But that's why you don't get the orb back when you use it, and you stand still and you're exposed to danger for like 5 to 10 seconds, depending on how long the channel is taking to actually use the ultimate. I think overall this change could make him a little bit overpowered, specifically at a pro level, but it again could be worth trying out. Now, I know Deadlock just got changes, but I still think she's crap. But I think it's fine that her traps don't hold flank. I think that's okay. I think her design in this way is very cool and different from other Sentinels, but I would like to have some changes for the traps. So first and foremost, it's really annoying that you cannot put the trap just further than 14 meters. That's the maximum range, 14 meters, while the Cypher has range of 20 meters when it comes to putting down his traps. So I would like it to be buffed the same way that Cypher is able to put it in 20 meters. So you're able to, like, for example here, put it in this cubby and then initiate a fight with someone in this cubby and get him stunned when he shoots you back, for example. Now, alongside this change, I would like to try out something that I might be a little bit too strong, but I would like to activate the traps manually, just like a nanoswarm, so I can look at it, activate it, and it stuns. Now combining that with a longer range maybe would be too strong, because now I could act like a semi-breach on some areas like the Kayo over here. Now I manually activate it, swing and kill. So maybe that's a little bit too much, but maybe worth checking out. Now when it comes to the wall, I have, I think, a pretty cool suggestion. Essentially, imagine that because the wall essentially doesn't really stop any informations, I would like to buff it to be a vision denial tool as well. So imagine that those windows that you have here on the wall are not translucent, but instead opaque. So now there's each of the side of the wall has 4 parts that are being opaque. 1 square, 2nd square, 3rd square, and a 4th square. And each of those squares can be destroyed by shooting it once. That's it. So now you can deny the vision denial of this wall by shooting it, but also if it doesn't get shot, then your opponents cannot see through it, and also you cannot see through it as well. My suggestion about the grenade was actually based on the fact that her grenade was buyable and not a signature. So I thought that the grenade should also deal damage over time that signals the deadlock that someone is being netted. Now I don't think this is fair enough now, because if those other buffs that I suggested would be in the game and also the grenade would be able to deal damage over time, that would be too much. But I have another suggestion. The only way to remove the net is to cut it with a knife. You have to do like 3 swings to cut through the net. This would be actually a very cool feature, because not only is it thematic, it also showcases a usability for the knife, but also makes it a little bit awkward for players, because now you cannot just remove it and put away the gun and have quick equip. So it's harder to actually commit to removing the net and being able to shoot at the same time. So what about Fade? Well, I think Fade is actually very balanced, and she's very fun to play. She's strong enough to actually see pro play. She's strong enough to be in ranked. Of course, it's an initiator, so requires cooperation from your ranked teammates, which doesn't happen often because they are just mumbling idiots most of the time. But I think it's a good design, it's a cool design, and it's balanced power level wise currently. Good job, devs. So what about Gekko? I feel like Gekko is pretty balanced. Unfortunately, he's very easily counterable because, you know, the Dizzy can be shot, the Wingman can be shot, the ultimate can be shot, so you can get countered by just people having guns. Now, to add a little bit of fresh stuff to him, I would like a change to the Wingman to make it more useful than he is right now. I don't know, he already has some uses, but I would like to see a change in a way that I would be able, for example, to right click the Wingman over here to get me this gun. So if I right click and he goes forward, he picks up the gun and goes back to me and brings me the operator. I would like the same to be done with the spike, for example, or with the orb. So I would be able to pick up an orb by using a Wingman over here by using the right click. Now, maybe this could be the same done with, for example, closing doors or triggering other pieces of maps with the right click. That would be pretty cool, and I don't think it would break the game in any way. And now Harbor. I feel like Harbor is one of the agents that has a very big problem when it comes to properly balancing, because right now he either needs a rework or massive change in the way that you use his util. So I would propose 2 ways of changing the character. Now my first suggestion when it comes to changing Harbor is removing one of his smokes, most likely Cascade, and changing it in something like an Astra pool essentially, but made out of water, so it, for example, pushes away players from that position and stuns them, right? Instead of pulling them together like an Astra, you push them away with a water explosion and you stun them instead. I would like that to actually be also used as an iPad version essentially for ease of use. Now, alongside the rework of Cascade, I would like the Clove to be changed so it doesn't disappear when you shoot it down. Like, this smoke should be persistent. It should have a normal duration and it should have just additionally a shield on it so it stays up even though the shield is gone, because right now it feels incredibly bad for the Harbor player to use this to help the planter to plant the spike, then this gets shot down and the person that trusted you with this utility piece is like what? where's the smoke? And now I'm dead. So I don't want to use 2 smokes on one position just because one of the smokes can disappear because it's being shot. But if we don't rework the cascade and we want to stay with this identity of Harbor denying vision with all of his 3 pieces of utility, then the cascade needs more functionality. What I would like to have is cascade essentially bopping people from its way. Imagine a tsunami wave that just takes you with you, right? So when you're met with this tsunami wave, you're being pushed away. You don't get stunned or anything, but you just get pushed away. So not only you get inaccurate because you're moving, but you have to abandon a space or you make noise through it. So that like kinda pushes away the defenders from specific positions. But also, I would like to have it a specific function when it comes to interaction with mollies. Imagine that the cascade would extinguish mollies on its way. Now that will be actually a pretty cool feature for post plant to counter like a Brimstone molly. Brimstone molly lands, I'm using cascade, now the Brimstone molly is gone. But there would have to be an information that something like this happens, like an audible information that it gets extinguished. I think this kind of a buff for the cascade would be very unique to Harbor, bringing something new to the table that is only capable to be done by this one character in the entire game. When it comes to Isa, I feel like he's in a great spot actually right now with all the changes that he got, but I would love to see something more. And with his wall, I would like those parts, those 3 parts, left, middle and right, to be a one-way mirror, like a Venetian mirror. So you're able to follow this wall and see through it without your opponents knowing what you see. So essentially like a kind of like a possibility of scouting while moving with this cover, which would be very unique space creation tool for the ISO player that could be benefiting him and maybe one teammate, essentially because there's no much more space behind that wall anyway. Alongside this change, I would also like him to get a reload after using the ultimate. Thank you very much. That's about it. Jett is the face of Valorant. We know. She was busted, she was broken, overpowered, got nerfed several times, and she's still incredibly powerful. So we need to nerf her more. So how do we do it? Those are my suggestions. What I'm proposing is kind of connected to each other. So first, the movement speed of the ultimate is ridiculous. You move like with a knife. There's no difference. Both of those movement speeds are exactly the same. I would like this to be changed so your ultimate speed is essentially speed with a pistol. It's still faster than with a rifle, but you're not completely abusing the possibility of wide swinging and having your opponent crosser placement being broken. Now, I think that's fair. I think the ultimate is still incredibly powerful. Having the ability to have no recoil while moving or jumping is incredibly strong. Now, alongside this change, I would like to also see the removal of hovering. I don't think she should have a passive. I think she should have this ability to over the ground only after you updraft, and now you can actually hover for the next 20 seconds, even when you just jump up. So there would be like a buff icon on the HUD to indicate for how long can you actually drift in the air. And I think that would be pretty balanced, because just the ability to just completely just jump, peek, hover with the ultimate specifically, or with a judge and like check a corner and break the crosser placement for the opponents is a little bit too much. My suggestions for Kayo are very simple. When you use the dagger and someone gets tagged, you get an HUD information just like you do it right now, but you get also an information how long the debuff lasts. We know it's 8 seconds, but it's kind of hard to like understand in the heat of the battle when it ends, when it's still up. So I would like the teammates and myself to be informed exactly about the duration of the buff with a countdown. Now, another thing with the dagger, that's more like for fun. But if someone gets a direct hit with the dagger and the dagger just hits a body, deal like 10 damage, please. That will create some hilarious situations when sometimes you get a kill with a dagger. Now, another suggestion for Kayo though is a change to his ultimate. When you're downed, when you're in the ultimate and you're on your all 4 and you need to get rezzed, I would like it to be like in PUBG or in Fortnite when you can crawl very slowly, but maybe I would be able to just grow a little bit to get behind cover, and now someone can res me, right? That would be incredibly cool. It could also help because you could be able to just see a little bit by walking slowly. You would not be able to like move with your mouse, but by just changing the way that you move, you could change the angle that you see while being downed, so you could also recon a little bit. All right, what about Killjoy? How would I change that? Two things. Very similar to Cypher, I would like to have the ability to pick up my Nano Swarm once it's down on the ground. That would allow me to be a little bit, let's say, more prepared for doing retakes, specifically in ranked, but also in pro play, and well, a little bit more flexible in general in the game. Now, also when you pick it up, you should add a countdown delay for it to be used again. Another change I would like to see on Killjoy is her alarm bot. I would like to buff it a little bit by adding a SOVA scan ability to the alarm bot to the person that is being tagged. So you could shoot someone through a smoke or through a wall when he's being attacked by the drone. Now also, sometimes it happens that when the drone activates, when the alarm bot just gets up and starts running, he will lose the track of a player. Please don't let him do that. Just let him always be attached to a person that he's running for. So you can just get that neon, you could get that Jett when she updrafts or when she dashes away, and it will not break the contact with the alarm bot, so he still runs after the target. One of the biggest problems of neon is that her utility is being used in a hectic way. When you're moving, when you're like going through, you can do the wall during that movement, and you have to be very, very precise with how you use it. But at the same time, there's some kind of min-maxing when it comes to the neon wall at the same time. Look, for example, here if I aim at the wall ends at the wall because you have to take into account what are you looking at with your crosshair. But if I go over the wall like this, then suddenly the neon wall goes through the object and just smokes on the other side. I would like this to be consistent, just like a Phoenix wall. It just goes through objects and that's it. And because of that, it will have a consistent range and consistency when it comes to expectations, so you don't get some weird bugs and glitches when the wall goes over an object and then it creates something like this. Alright, what about Omen? When it comes to Omen, I would like to have the momentum-based paranoia again. So if I go forward, it goes faster. If I go backwards, it goes slower. It was just cool skill expression that I really liked, and I think it should be back into the game. Now, another thing I would really like to change is the audio of the smokes. Not many people know, but your opponents will hear you do this smoke from up to 40 meters. So if someone is, for example, standing right here in the cubby and I'll be smoking from this position, this person will hear me using the smokes. It doesn't matter where I'm putting the smoke, like I can be putting it over here, for example. The person in cubby will hear me, my position, when I accept the smoke. I would like that to be removed. I think it's unnecessary risk for the Omen. Specifically also, it doesn't make a lot of sense when you TP somewhere and then you want to instantly smoke and your opponent will actually hear your new position after you TP if they are close enough. I think that is unnecessary risk for the Omen that is kinda against his design. One more thing about the Omen that I would like to have changed is his ultimate vision. When I ult and I accept it, my vision is rebuilding like from a blind up. Now I would like this to be instantly full vision so I can have better understanding what's around me, and I could also use my ultimate for scouting, so I could TP on a side, on like let's say heaven on seaside, and then on top of the box to check the corners, because otherwise if I'm instantly shot down I will not even know what's going on around me because I will have limited vision. That would actually add so much decision making to the Omen ultimate that will actually even get more skill expression into the game with this character. What about Phoenix? I actually think he's in a great state. He's great for ranked, he's okay for pro play, and I also think he's probably the best character that you would like to recommend to a new player coming to Valorant, because he's so easy to understand, but he also gives you proactive utility to learn how to play the game. So thumbs up. What's funny is that Raze is in the same state. and they are next to each other with Phoenix. So basically, playable at pro level, playable at ranked, simple to understand, so you can recommend this to a new player into the game with proactive utility. Remember, don't teach people satchel movement when they start playing the game. You can just use this character as for damage. And I think there's not much you should change about her character because she just works. So again, thumbs up. Reyna, I hate her. I hated her since the first moment she was introduced to the game. I don't think she fits this game, and I think she should be deleted. I'm the biggest hater of this character, and I legit think that the game would be in a better state if this character would be deleted. She is not good at a pro level because she delivers zero value for the team, but she's too good for ranked because she is so selfish in the utility. If you want to just play the game in ranked, just play Reyna, right? You can just do this, baby, and then just go away, and you can never be traded. Yes, great stuff. So instead of this, I would like, well, since we can't delete her from the game, I would like her to be reworked in a way that would establish teamwork. Treat those suggestions about the Reyna more like general ideas without explicit, yeah, this is the way I would like it to be in the game, but just like a direction of how I would like to have this rework being done. So essentially, I would like the utility to be more team-based. So for example, when I press the ultimate, I would like Reyna to like become kind of like a leader figure for the team because she is very commanding in all the cinematics that we have. So the ultimate would be an aura that gives an area of effect to the teammates. So they are getting buffed. Fire rate, maybe health, maybe movement speed, whatever fits, whatever numbers would make sense. But I would like to incentivize people to use this ultimate to help the team and not help themselves, right? It would be really nice to have her team oriented. Now, hear me out because this is gonna be radical. I would like the Dismiss and the Devour to be separated. I don't want them to share the orbs anymore. I would like the Dismiss to be a signature, but instead of being acted just on a kill, so you have the orb, you press it, and now you can dismiss, I would like the Dismiss to just be activated, just the effect, but you pay in blood, so you get damage for using the Dismiss. I use this, I get, let's say, 50 damage. Like I eat 50 of my HP. I can get it back if I get a kill on someone and I heal, right? But I would like this Dismiss to be activable because I would like the agent essentially to have some form of space creation that has some form of risk and reward and also can be used proactively without relying on getting a kill. Now I know this might be overpowered, who knows? Would have to test it out in the game. And as a signature ability, of course, you would get it back after getting 2 kills. But I would like to have it 1 and then like 2 Devours to regain your health if you get the kills. So you would be able to buy 2 blinds and 2 more Devours essentially, and that's about it. That's your kit. But now it's more team-based, you can create the space for the team, and your ultimate actually buffs the entire team. Next one would be Sage. Now Sage, I think she is just okay, but I think a small change would be nice. So what I would like to have is the slows to be signature ability, the heals to be buyable abilities. So you get 1 slow per 40 seconds, kind of like Deadlock, right? So you'd be able to have 1 and then buy another 1 and have it back after 40 seconds, and then move the heal to the place of the slows, but also the ability to have it twice, so you can buy each of them for 100 credits. So essentially you would still have the same cost of the entire kit because that's 400, 200, 200, but instead you would have 400, 100, 100 and 200 for the slow, but you would be able to have more slows overall. So you gain essentially utility because her as a sentinel, you can really say she's a sentinel, but if she gets a slow ability back every 40 seconds, then you can to some degree see her value in a style agent. Tejo is incredibly flexible. He can fight immediately with his stun like a duelist, he can recon like a Sova or a Sky, he can do a suppress like a Kayo, right? And then his missiles can be zoning tool, kill tool, post-plan tool, initiation tool, destroying like pieces of map tool. There's so many things you can do with this character that is kind of insane. That's why he's so overpowered, not because of the numbers that he's giving you, but because of the way that you can use him. You can be anything you want. at any moment. So I would like to limit a little bit of his flexibility, so that's why I would propose to nerf his missiles in a very specific manner. Instead of having just one guided salvo in the equip, right, in the equip here as a signature, we give him one missile for free every round, and the second missile if you spend 200 credits, and then after 40 seconds you get one more missile back, and then after 40 seconds you get second missile back. So the first utility, the first guided salvo that you will use, it either is gonna have one missile or two missiles at the same time, but you're not able to use the guided salvo again till the 40 seconds pass. So that's essentially how I would like to make it balanced. You can still only use it every 40 seconds, but it will vary when it comes to the amount of missiles that you will be able to use. You can either use one missile and then use two missiles for the next after the next 40 seconds, for example, or you use two missiles and then after 40 seconds you will be able to use one missile. Of course, if the round goes long enough, you will be able to use two missiles, maybe twice. But yeah, that limits the amount of flexibility that you would have with him, and I think it would be a fair thing to do when it comes to this agent. Alright, let's talk about Viper, my second main that I spent thousands of hours playing, and I don't play her anymore because she's just not flexible enough anymore. So first thing first, let's keep the one snakebite, okay, but please, for the love of God, make it deal 155 damage or even 160, just lethal damage, so you can check one corner during an execute with this molly without people just tanking it when they have full shield. Second thing, get me back the Viper orb. I would just like to pick it up back again, maybe add a very long delay before being able to throw it again, but please, for the love of God, get it back. I would like to reposition the orb after first using it again. And now the fuel. The fuel, I feel like it's very prohibitive in the way you are playing, right? Because when you use the fuel for just the smoke, for example, it will last for 13 seconds. But if you use the wall and the smoke together, well, then the duration of them is being cut to 8 seconds altogether. Now, I would like this to be changed in a very specific way. I would like the fuel to be actually divided into two fuel bars. One fuel bar to be attached only to the orb, and the second fuel bar only to be attached to the wall. And I would like to nerf the duration of those smokes. So for example, the full fuel duration of the orb would be 8 seconds and the full fuel duration of the wall would be 10 seconds, for example. But they could be used separately because I would also have separate fuel with maybe a little bit faster regeneration rate now, because the duration, potentially the duration of the wall would be shorter, or the duration of the orb would be shorter. It's very hard to balance Viper when it uses the same fuel, because now the fuel gives the same duration for both wall and the orb, so it's kind of hard to find the good spot for it. But if you would divide the fuel so you could nerf and buff the wall from the orb completely separately, that would allow even further more balance of Viper towards fair game, but also still managing her flexibility so she could actually be used like a true controller with creativity. Because right now it's so limiting, it just makes me furious. So yeah, that would be my proposition to Viper. Alright, what about Vyse? Well, I think Vyse is very strong. A little bit too strong maybe. So I would like the wall, the duration of it after it's being popped, decreased to like 6 seconds, because right now it's 8. The duration is very long. But also, the same can be applied to the vines. The vines, I actually like how they work. I think the AoE of it's great. The damage, I think it could be even bigger. But I would like the duration of them to be reduced. 10 seconds is actually unreal how long it is. So I would like the vines to last, for example, 8 seconds instead of 10, but because of that, we would increase the damage to even higher, like 15 damage per step, which would make the people in it, again, really not motivate them to move at all. Alright, my friends, what about Waylay? I'll be very honest with you. I am afraid of this character. I think if you buff her, too much, she's gonna be broken and she's gonna be the new Jett and it's gonna be annoying to play against. So I don't want the buff to the equip time after the dash. I think she cannot be faster equipping the gun because it will just be so annoying to play against. So maybe my proposal would be to change two things about Waylay. First thing that I would like to see change is hair grenade. Hair grenade has very small range. I would like to be buff extended, just a little bit wider radius, so it has a higher chance of hitting someone. But also, not sure if you're aware, but this grenade acts exactly like the old Kayo grenade. So if you are not visible to the explosion like center, you cannot be affected by it, even though you're in range. So I would like that to be changed, just like the Kayo grenade got changed. If you are in range of the explosion, you get affected. That would be a nice buff. It's so hard to get value out of this grenade nowadays. Alongside that change to the grenade, I would like its cost to be reduced to 200. I would also like the dash to be reduced cost to 200, and then we add one more refraction, so the signature ability, to the utility kit. So essentially you're able to buy a second refract, but we would nerf the refract when it comes to its duration. So essentially right now it's 9 seconds. I think we should nerf this to 6 seconds, but you get 2 of them, and the second one would cost 100. So you would have more options of checking like angles aggressively, but for a shorter duration of time, but you can do it twice per round, or even more if you get the kills, of course. And at the end, my beloved current main, Yoru. Now, I am biased, I will definitely be affected by the way I think about him, but I think he is low-key overpowered, and I talk about that for over 2 years since the rework, and I played him before the rework as well. You know, I had like 200 hours before the rework on Yoru. But at the VCT EMEA broadcast, I was talking about Yoru being incredibly good for over a year and a half before the teams had starting to use him, before he was meta right now, like it is right now. So I don't think he should be nerfed. I don't think he should be changed in any way. I don't think he should get buffed because he is clearly very good, but he requires mastery. Once you are mastering Yoru, you're gonna be very good at the character and incredibly annoying to play against. But if you're not, you are very weak and it's hard to get value out of him, which I think it's fine. Now, one thing I could tell you that could be nerfed from Yoru is the duration of the flash, because if you remember correctly, long time ago, his duration of the flash got buffed after the rework by 250 milliseconds. I think that could be reversed if the devs think that Yoru is too strong. If you managed to watch the entire video, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and leave a comment that says, "I cleaned the lab." I will make sure to reply to you with very special thanks. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time. Remember to like and subscribe.